Hello, and welcome to another episode of Bring Back Focus, a podcast about bringing deep, focused work back into a hyper distracted modern life. I want to start today's episode by narrating an incident or a story that happened almost 5 years ago. It was around 11 p.m., and I was trying to put my 1 year old to sleep. Instead of, and he was not able to sleep. For some reason, he was moving around. But instead of being present with him, I was just lying there with the phone in my hand, mindlessly refreshing my email inbox. The worst part was that it was not that I was waiting for any email or there was some deadline or I was expecting any messages that were important. It was just the compulsive need to check my inbox at any time of the day or night in this case. And I almost like conditioned myself to be always be on top of everything, all incoming messages, any notifications. So that really made me realize that I was so habituated to this constant availability. I was just constantly available for any new email, any messages, text, a message from my colleague wanting to quickly check in. There was this silent pressure to stay on top of everything. And I realized I was not alone, but it was just that particular incident made me realize how messed up it was for me. The thing about this is that all of this makes us feel very productive, and I I was in a very hyper growth mode of my career, so it made me feel like I'm on top of everything, and I felt like, okay, I'm in control of everything, but I really wasn't. I was It made me feel like I'm productive, but it was just slowly chipping away at my energy, my clarity, and my focus. And when we reflect back on our day to day today, we'll realize that a lot of us are in this constant availability loop. We're just always available to respond. And that is impacting us in manners that we probably don't realize today. So let me start by talking about the impact of being in this constant availability mode. The first and foremost is it leads to suboptimal output at your work. You're not just slower because you're constantly, your mind is in different places. You're not just slower because of that, but your output is objectively of subpar quality. And you probably have realized that. When you work on a task that requires deep focus and you are just, at the same time, you're available for all these other things, the final output that you produce is of subpar quality. So that's one. Second is burnout becomes very prominent. And that was something that was happening to me more often than not. I would end the day by almost with my, almost feeling that all my energy is completely exhausted. And while sometimes it's a good thing, you feel that you accomplished a lot, but it was not that positive feeling. It was that negative burnout. It like almost making me feel very guilty at the end of the day because I had absolutely no energy for anything else. And slowly but gradually, that burnout becomes a very regular part of your process. The third thing that happens because of this constant availability is that it absolutely impacts the culture around you. So when you are constantly available and when you are expecting these kind of emails and you respond and you show extreme responsiveness to every incoming message, it sets an unsaid expectation for others as well. And it's very easy and this is especially true for people in leadership positions. So if you are constantly available, it sets a precedent, and the people reporting to you or, people who work in your team feel that pressure too. I'll give you one example. So when I started out as a manager, one of the things I always mention to my team that, I tend to send emails over the weekend, not because I expect them to respond at that time, but it's just a time that's more convenient for me because I work for a few hours over the weekend. It's just I get quite a few things done. But once somebody came up to me actually and said that while it comes from a good place, what you're doing comes from a very good place, it just creates pressure on your team members to even if they don't have to respond. If people see your email, there is an unsaid pressure. So I stopped doing that now, unless it's extremely important. In some cases, it is. I do not send emails over weekend because that creates that culture as well. So that's the third thing. When you're constantly available, there's a culture around you that becomes like that. Fourth, and a slightly long-term view of this is it damages your long-term career growth. So at work, you are expected to deliver. Actually, let me take a step back. When you are hired to do something, you're paid to solve, more often than not, solve hard problems. And solving these hard problems requires you to give dedicated mental bandwidth to those problems. And when you give this mental bandwidth to those problems, you technically have to shut off from other incoming inputs. So when we don't do that, we are not giving dedicated bandwidth to those hard problems. We end up doing a lot of tasks, but that's not impact created. And by the way, people will see you as somebody who responds quickly, who is like, easily available, but they may not see you as somebody who creates impact. So that's a big one for me. And I think the final one is just fulfillment. When you, and this is true for any of these distractions, when you give into these distractions, or when you are constantly available, you end up living a unfulfilled day, unfulfilled month, and an unfulfilled career. Like, there's no satisfaction in just being available. There's a lot more fulfillment and satisfaction when you've solved some big, hairy problems. And that's something that this being constantly available is not going to help you achieve. So that night, and actually the day after that, was almost like a wake up call for me. And it wasn't dramatic. Like, if you think about this incident, it was just something that it struck me that I'm not being effective at work by doing this. At the same time, I'm not effective in my personal life. My kid wanted my attention, and I'm just on my phone. So what am I doing? And so, it was like it took me, and it didn't like it. It was not like I changed my behavior immediately after that. It took me like months of realization, months of failure, and even today, there are a lot of time that I fall into this trap. So it's a constant struggle. It's the way our work is designed today. It's very easy to fall into this loop. So it's a constant struggle. But what is important is to be aware of this trap. I think I realized that I was on top of everything except what mattered to me. And that realization really changed how I worked after that. So what's the way out? The way out is not a very simple one. It's not that you flip a switch and everything changes. Definitely didn't happen for me that way. But I think you have to slow down, really slow down and reflect on your day, on your week, and see how, just realize how you design your work. And is your work designed around your availability, or is it designed around this hairy problems, big hairy problems that you need to solve? So that's something that you need to reflect on and design your work in that manner. I think there are a lot of short term fixes. One is established clear work windows that let the team know, or let your colleagues and manager or team members know that these are my work windows. I will not respond to messages after that. Even during my work window, I'm generally, if my calendar is blocked, I'm not responding to. So establish those work windows, create those blocks that you think you need, set clear expectations. One thing I'll mention here, what I've realized is a lot of times people say that, hey, they don't respect my rules, my boundaries. You know why people don't respect your boundaries and your rules? Because you yourself don't respect them. Respect those. So when somebody responds to an email immediately, and then next time complains that, why is that person complaining if I'm not responding immediately? Because you always do it that way. So when you don't respect your own rules, don't expect others to do that. Set your boundaries and respect them yourselves first. Turn off all your notifications. This is like almost no brainer. This is like a non negotiable. All your notifications should be off except for the ones that are extremely important, like a call from a loved one, family member, or message. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. Just turn off all the notifications that you don't need, that are not absolutely needed for your day to day. In long term, as I said, you need to redesign your work system. How do you work? What are your hours, or what are your focus sprints, and when do you check emails, etc. You need to streamline how you communicate and form clear guidelines for yourself and for other team members. So, for example, for me, I have a framework where I say, if you need me urgently, do not text or email and wait for my response. Just pick up the phone and call me. If you pick it up, if I don't pick it up, I'll send me a text and I'll reach out as soon as I am able to. If something can wait, then let's wait for our one-on-one. We can discuss it at that time. If you're going to send me an email or a chat and expect me to do something right away, it generally is not going to happen. And I set that expectation with my team so they know that. So I think you have to formulate these kind of protocols for yourself. Let go of this inbox zero, this tendency to get your inbox to zero. I don't know how it started and why is it. A lot of emails that you get are somebody else's to-do list on your plate, and you don't need to respond to all of them. So yeah, get rid of this, inbox zero mindset. I get that you need to clean up your inbox and all of that, but you don't need to respond to every email. You don't need to, even if you're in CC, just don't need to respond to everything. Just be mindful about that. Reset often. This is the last thing I'll mention, that take time to rejuvenate, refresh, and clear your mind. So that's what we wanted to cover today. Where am I today? I think I'm way more aware, way more mindful about all of these things, but I don't think anybody is there, fully there. I have my struggles, I have my days, I have my weeks where I am in a constant availability mode, but I am trying and I'm changing things one day at a time. And, that's what matters. Like, how do you be aware about this? Stay on top of things that really, really matter and not on top of everything. And I've seen that the quality of work really changes when you do that. So that was it for today. Thank you so much. Reflect on your availability status and take that action to change it. Thank you. And we'll see you in the next episode.